It's time for your panel. Please give it up for your host, Will Carter.
Thank you, friends. Guys, I am so excited about tonight's panel. Jamie mentioned this earlier, but as you guys were coming in, and even just in the last few minutes, you have been hearing all night the music of these three fantastic musicians. Not only are they fantastic musicians, but these are the people that make your film sound better. We love that. But we know that that can be mysterious. We know that that's a thing that sometimes can be very scary to even think about working with a musician when you just need to get it done and get it across the finish line, when it's so much easier to just go download a song. But we're going to talk about why that's not always the case tonight. So, we're going to do some introductions here. First off, Samantha Sack is one of our composers. Okay. Vince Orsolini, a producer. We got some mics out, if you don't mind. There you go. And then Amy Ward, local songwriter. All right. So I'll do the actual little quick bios for you guys, so I give you the real plug here. So Samantha here is a composer for film and visual media with credits including the Venice Biennale Cinema, entry Fall of the Ibis King, I should have read this before, Student Academy Award semifinalist for The Small Makings of a Storm. She's trained in composition at Missouri State University and in the Dublin Institute of Technology. She has collaborated with filmmakers around the world to craft scores, so we gotta get her here at home, guys, that heighten emotion and immerse audiences in her stories. Her goal is to always create music that lets viewers dream, feel, and fully enter the world of the film on the screen. She hopes to give the audience a space to dream and feel. Let's give it up for Samantha. Amy Ward, she is a Kansas City-based songwriter and Berklee College of Music grad, his work has been featured in films and television, including A California Christmas, City of Lights on Netflix, A Wedding Date, NCIS, and Say Yes to the Dress. She's had hundreds of placements across major motion pictures, independent films, and primetime TV, and brings a dynamic musical voice to the screen. Her current projects include 2 songs in the Blair Underwood-directed film Viral, and you may have seen it already, but earlier this year, her music was featured in her first animated feature film, A Tooth Fairy Tale, which premiered in theaters in May. So if you've got kids and you saw that, that was Amy's music you were listening to. Let's give it up for Amy. And from KC to LA and everywhere in between, Vincent Orsolini is a local composer and sound engineer whose work bridges film, television, and multimedia. With experience in studios across France, England, KC, and LA, like I said, he has crafted sound for documentaries, commercials, video games, and your independent films. Drawing on his jazz roots and multicultural background, Vincent brings a distinctive approach to soundtrack composition, creating memorable scores that merge diverse musical genres. He's based here right now and spends some time in LA, but he's dedicated to pushing creative boundaries and building collaboration that brings powerful stories to life through music. Let's give it up for Vince.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. This is literally my favorite panel ever, because we all were just sitting and talking a few weeks ago about how this was gonna go, and we were just down a rabbit hole, down a rabbit hole, down a rabbit hole. It was so much fun. So we're gonna skip forward. I think we're gonna start with Amy here. And Amy, if you wanna help me, can you advance the slide one if you don't mind? I'm gonna just call you guys to do this for me. It'll be easier. So thank you, Jamie. Actually, can you skip a few more? Sorry, I'm in the wrong order here. Go to Miss Amy. Keep going, 1, 2 more. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw this off. There we go. Oh, nope, one more. There she is. There she is. Look, it's Amy. All right. So Amy, we're going to get to your song in just a minute, but you write original songs, and when you're writing for a film, where do you start? Is it the script? Is it the mood? Is it reference? How do you even start that process to write a song?
Well, it's definitely case by case. For years, I was only given a 1-line brief, and so that really teaches you how to write. So I used to do tons of stuff for sync, and it was whatever the TV show was, you didn't necessarily know any details of the show or the director or anything. So you would just get a one-line description. Boy meets girl, we need a Norah Jones song. There you go, write the song. So that's how it used to be. However, some of the projects I've been doing lately, I feel very blessed to be getting a little bit more advanced in my career, where I'm actually, like for example, The Tooth Fairy, I was able to read the script, which was pretty cool. And I got to see the animation before it was even finished, so it was kind of like the early stages of the animation. And so, the director, who I never actually spoke to, but the contact person, who was actually the composer of the film and the producer of the music, they were kind of my contact people. So in that case, I was asked to write a Disney song. So they wanted a big Disney pop ballad, but like a big soaring type of one. So it really kind of just depends on the situation. So it's not always the director, it's not always, there's different contact people, but that's kind of been my process. And I also just want to say, this is off the record, I just want to take a moment and thank Will for all of his hard work putting this together, because he is such a professional. So let's give it up for Will, please.
Come on now. Thanks, guys. This is about you tonight, though. This is about music. So with that, we could be doing a panel on music if we didn't listen to some music. So I've built in some snips for you guys to listen to tonight. So you just heard Amy talking about A Tooth Fairy Tale. So we're going to listen to her original song that was just in a major motion picture. Click it away, Bobby.
And I'm not singing on this one, sadly, because they needed a male tooth fairy. So.
All the possibilities. You are strong, you are wise. It's the moment to open your eyes. Feet off the ground and your head in the clouds. There's beauty below to see. Taking a chance like a wing on a blanket. It's time to break out from the old you and feel little magic like the boldness in you.
I see some of you. It's okay. You can beat to it. It's fine. This is what we're doing tonight. It's going to be a lot of this. We can go ahead and skip to the next slide. But Amy, that song, congratulations.
Thank you. I do have an announcement about the song, just because this is a first for me. It's the first animated film that I ever wrote a song for, and the soundtrack is out and it's on a label. And the song has recently been submitted for a Grammy in 2 categories. So, fingers crossed.
We're sitting here with a future Grammy Award winner, you guys.
So that doesn't. If it's submitted, the next step is being a nominee. So we shall see what happens. But it's visual, best song of the year and best visual media song. So we shall see how it comes.
Congratulations. By the way, as we continue to talk, now you can scan that beautiful QR code, and there's going to be a bunch of QR codes for you to scan tonight if you haven't noticed already. But this one will take you to Amy's website, so you can just bookmark that in your bookmarks. Amy, that process, you told me a lot of that, it was reference to Disney, and you definitely get that Disney feel in that song, but with that one, you had a little bit to work with, and you've said that you don't always have that. So when filmmakers are working with you and they bring you an idea, what would you like to see them bring to you to the table? What would you like that conversation to look like as a songwriter?
I would love more. Anything that we as musicians can get. If there's a reference track, if there's a style, even if there's a tempo, that would be amazing. But the more that you can give us as musicians, the better that we can deliver for the project. And like I say, a lot of times it's a reference song, but it literally could be, you know, you dive in with the director and you kind of come up with the idea together. And I'm sure these two will talk about that a lot as doing the film scoring side of it. But it is a collaborative effort, and you know, if the communication is open and you're more willing to actually work with us, it's just going to help the end. The end result is going to end so much better.
Push the end in.
Boop, boop. Oh, yeah. There. We're back.
All right, I think we're back. All right. We're going to move over to Sam and Vince for just a minute. And Amy, thank you. This is so awesome. We're excited for that. Let me ask this really quick before we transition. How do you find the words for a song? I think, you know, as a songwriter, yours is so much about the words and the meaning behind the words. How do you find the words? I have to ask that question.
I go with a feeling. I mean, I play piano, I sing. So if you know the storyline, at least, even if it's just a few lines of the story, I've been writing lyrics and songs for years. So I think it's, you know, you kind of have to have feeler words, but you also need to be general enough that the mass listener can relate to. Because if you throw too many metaphors in there and you're trying to be too artsy, it's not going to work. It all depends on the actual song. But I think it's just really important to relate to the storyline. And that song was called Take Flight. And obviously it's about the Tooth Fairy, right? And about his aspirations in life. And you know, so you kind of have to come up with a general idea that most people can relate to. And obviously you want to have your craft down as far as like rhyme schemes and that kind of thing. But you know, it's just important to, there's a fine line of being too artistic and then it being, you know, if you're too artistic, then not the general mass is going to listen to it. But there's a kind of like sweet spot from a lyrical standpoint. I think if you can be somewhat more on a general level, then people will remember it and they're going to sing along. So it definitely is a skill to learn how to do that. And I've been writing for sync for about 20 years, so I've learned how to, you know, separate like how I write for myself versus for projects. You know, if it's a horror film, you know, it's going to be completely different than what we just heard, right?
It's going to sound like these guys over here, right?
Exactly, right.
The horror singers.
Yeah, so, I mean, lyrics are very important. And I was fortunate enough in this project, there were no changes to the song and to the lyrics. It was signed off by the production team, and they took the demo, and they took my stems, and they ran with it. And so, you know, but that didn't happen overnight. Like, you have to work on your craft. And that isn't just translating as a musician, that's as all of us as artists, right? We have to continue to work on our craft. So keep doing what you're doing, peeps.
That's good advice. All right, we're going to move over to Sammy and Vince. They're more on the composition and production side, and to most of us, that's the mystery. What's the lingo? You guys have all your own lingo, just like we have all of our own lingo. And so tell us a little bit about, you know, that particular piece, you know, because I come to you and I'm like, I want a score for my film, but I don't know what to tell you. I don't know where to start. I don't even know where to begin this process. Can you guys help us out with that a little bit?
I can jump in here real quick. That is something I encounter a lot whenever I travel to film festivals, especially, is directors will come up to me and they'll say like, oh, I really want to hire a composer, but I don't know how to tell them what I want. You know, that's like they will maybe have a temp track, which is always helpful, you know, as long as you don't be married to it, but we'll cover that. But like, I think the biggest thing to understand is like, you don't have to be a music expert. Like, part of our job is understanding a little bit of your job and everything about music to be able to help your film. That's like, you don't need to understand music. So you don't need to like, I mean, if you want to be like, oh yeah, I want a Baroque piece in E minor. That's like, yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, like we can work with that, you know. But if like something, when I was working on Small Makings of a Storm, is the thing that we had a temp track with mountains from Interstellar, and when I asked the director Avery about it, she said like, oh, I don't want, like, it's a little too anxiety inducing and it's a little too epic than what I'm wanting. I want something more meditative, but it gets that like crackling sound underneath, like, because like it was about where it's truly becoming a storm and like lightning is like striking everywhere. And so I was like, okay, crackling, got it. And it's like you need that like undercurrent of energy, and I was able to work with that and give her something that she wanted. So it's like you can kind of use anything, you know, just like use your artistic brain, because you have artistic brains, you know, and just be able to tell us that, and we'll go, got it. You know,
It's just like communicating to your actors and to your crew.
Exactly.
It's really just explaining to them what it is that you're needing, and it may not be in their terms, but if you can communicate what you're wanting, you can get to that center point, and they can help you make some magical music. Vince, I know you play a lot in melodic motif and underscoring and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about all of that and how it works with dialogue and action and just storytelling in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I think I want to piggyback off a little bit what Sam said also regarding communicating as a director to us composers. I would add also that get to know your composer, talk about your journey as well as a director, and when you work together on a project, whether you're sitting together in the same room or even abroad, I think for me, what I realize is when I connect with a director on a personal level, I get to understand a little bit more about where they come from, their background, and also where they might want to go with the storytelling. So aside from just the actual project itself, if you get to know the people that you work with, you're more likely to be able to follow their train of thought, their storytelling, and where they're going with it. And so I would say if you want to break the ice with your composer, start there. Just kind of talk about what you've experienced in life. Movies that inspired you in the past, things that you're like, oh, this scene, why did this scene make me feel this way? Was it the music? Was it both the music and the cinematography behind it? So I think those are important points as well if you want to get started on your discussion with a composer out there.
Zami, you mentioned that you've used a lot of reference points and things like that. If you want, do we want to do your video clip really quick? And
I mean, since I kind of like,
yeah.
since I kind of like stepped on your toes, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, you're absolutely, we're just doing this and talking. So,
Right.
but I thought if you wanted, we could talk a little bit about that, because you've talked about how you use reference to guide you. And is there anything that's like a specific description that you've ever been given that's really just helped you hone in on the right sound?
I mean, there's never anything specific, because every director is different. You know, then it's like there have been specific of like, oh, I mentioned like, oh, this specific track and this is specifically what I like about it. But there is also the like, you know, just saying like, okay, I want to pay attention to this particular emotion. You know, that's like it. Like I have been told like, oh, it's sad. Like I know it's sad, but how is it sad? You know, when they're like, oh, I really want to dig into how this character is really grieving in real time. You know, then I'm like, oh yeah, I can work with that, because it's so specific and it's so juicy. It allows you to like actually work with the director. Like, well, okay, well, what does that mean? Kind of piggybacking on yours. So like, what does that mean sonically to us to like be grieving in that moment? You know, and just getting to talk about that. You know.
Jamie, if you don't mind, if we can back up to Sammy's slide that's got the music on it, we're going to play one of her songs really quick so you guys can hear some more music. I love listening to that. We can go ahead and skip to her QR code slide if you want. But yeah, you know, so how many of you guys felt something when you were listening to that song? That's the point, right? When we go to the movies, we want to feel something, and actors can take us to a really good place with that, but that music can take it that extra step forward. And so that particular song, do you want to talk a little bit about that song and what you were trying to achieve with that and kind of what the inspiration behind it was?
I would love to. So the original song is actually a spoken word piece, a dialogue between two people over the phone, and it's meant to evoke that feeling that I think a lot of us got, especially during lockdown, of like being able to look around and wonder like what is happening in other people's lives. You know, that it's like we're so isolated from each other, and that I think a lot of us lost contact with people. We've actually lost people. That I wanted to explore that feeling of like just being able to float around a city that you know is alive underneath everything, but you can't see it. You know, and so I wanted to explore that kind of lonely nighttime feeling.
Cool. That's awesome. Vince, when you one of the things with producing is that there's a wide range of what you can achieve at different levels of money and what you're trying to achieve. We've talked a little bit about in the past how you balance like digital instruments, live recordings, what drives those decisions. Can you maybe start that conversation, and Sammy, you can add into that if you want to.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, thankfully we're now in 2025, the ability to create endless types of sounds is kind of wild when you take in perspective the evolution of technology. And so the cool thing about basically working with tools like contact libraries or string sections and things like that is you're able to really quickly lay down an idea for a project and then decide with a director, depending on the budget for the film, whether or not you want to substitute those instruments for real instruments. I would love to do that all the time if I could, because having a real cellist or a whole string section in your studio is something to be seen, y'all, I promise. When you see your piece come to life and played by real players, it's a feeling for us composers. It's undescribable. But I would say, I mean, the tools, they're really practical tools. I don't know you, Sam, but like I use them a lot for demos and presentations and things like that to get the ideas across. And then it's just an open dialogue from there based on the project needs and what needs to be achieved.
For sure, like I definitely like make mock-ups of my stuff before ever putting it to like sheet music or anything, or even considering a musician. I've been really lucky to get to work with a lot of musicians, and especially like get to work with particular. I'm like, oh, I just really like the way you sound, you know. But it is not always practical, especially on smaller budgets. But what we have now to be able to emulate so many different sounds now is actually really incredible. You're absolutely right.
That's awesome. Yeah, as you guys can imagine, technology's changed the film a lot too. We have tools that are a lot cheaper than they used to be. As you guys remember when cameras used to be over $100,000. Some of them still are, but for the beginners in the room, we're probably not spending that kind of money on a camera. So, but technology has advanced so far. Everything's 4K. I can shoot 4K on my cell phone. Things that we never ever thought would happen. The same's happening for you guys in the music space. Your tools are getting better and more streamlined, and so you're able to do bigger and cooler things than maybe you could at one point. So, did you want to add to that?
I was just going to add, like that you can attest to this as well, is that part of the fun of that is you can be kind of a one-stop shop. Mm-hmm. Is that like, while it's always good to be able to like send off your music to a sound mixer and just have somebody else take care of it, that's like you can still mix it yourself in-house frequently, because there's so much, it is so accessible now. Mm-hmm. You know, that you don't like, I mean, you have a giant board. Like, I don't have a giant board in my studio, so like.
We all have, small studios or studios. He has a bigger one than we do, but but we have.
Nope, not going
some
there.
jealousy up here, I think. I think it's your studio.
It is a comedy theater, right?
Right, it is. It's the bird.
And you're surrounded.
Vince, to that point, technology plays a huge role in what you're doing, more on the production side, and having all those toys and the bells and whistles. How does that change it for you when sometimes you really just want the basics, but then you've got these other things that you can play into that. You can change your sound is so unique. I've been listening to your stuff for the last couple of days, and you're very unique and eclectic in the way that you put your music together. So how often do you use your own personality into the instruments, into the sound, and things like that?
Oh, everything. I put my entire soul, I think, into my art at all times. I feel like So my primary instrument, my first instrument, and the one I play is piano. And from a foundational perspective, I think piano is definitely one of the most important instruments you can learn just to understand harmony and the connection between melody and harmony. But I feel like when I compose, when I write music, I'm 1,000% in there. You know, I'm in the zone. I'm nothing around me is really bothering me. I'm just focused in. I'm laser focused. It's funny because there's two sides of me where I write music for film, and I write, music like pop, funk, soul, 2, 3, 4, 5-minute pieces of music for Spotify or releasing out there for distribution. But one of them I'm able to really put out really just fully, which is composing for film, because I feel like so connected to an image, it allows me to really just lay down so much of myself, versus writing for like pop music or funk music, which I love too. It takes me like 3-4 years to finish my album, because I am literally never sure of like every element that you can do. So there's so much out there that you can do with technology. It's also finding a happy medium for yourself to be like, am I satisfied with this? Is this good enough? How do I feel about this? And really, I'm going into like some ego and more like, some things that you have to face with yourself, as an artist, to be like, oh, well, let me let this go. Let me let this out there in the world. And so that's important also as an artist, to just release and let go of your art.
That's really good advice. Everybody in this room can relate to that, right? Just let it go. It's good enough. You got it to the finish line. Sometimes you just have to let it go. Why don't we cue up some music from Vince? Speaking of his film composition, if we could skip to that slide, and that was right.
Oh boy.
I think he's at the beginning. Maybe go backwards. Sorry. There he is. All right. Here we go. For those whispering, this is a sample track lead to the video. I know that's what you're thinking right now. It's not the actual theme song. You love that build up in the music. It's so powerful. Love it. I was feeling it the whole time. I'm like, oh, something big's about to happen. All right. So I'm going to ask a few questions of just everybody now, and you guys can all respond to these. And if you guys want, you can hop to the last slide that's got everybody's pictures on it again. But you guys, that was some incredible music, and we've talked, not everybody can afford a full orchestra or maybe that particular sound, because we're independent filmmakers and we're just trying to get it done with what little money that we have. So, also, music's usually one of the very last things that we think about. We have the vision and we're racing to the finish line, and then we're into post-production and, oh my God, we're due to be done in a few weeks and I need music. Guys, write me a song right now and I have no budget. What do you do? That's literally how it works, right? I come to you and say, I have no budget and I want a song in 2 weeks. That's not the reality of how it should work. But can you guys talk a little bit about when we come to you, you know, what that expectation should be? What should timelines look like? What should budgets look like?
Well, I do have to say a lot of times, most of the time for me is exactly what you just said. Well, it is, we need it tomorrow. Or someone else, they're gonna pick somebody else to do it. And so you gotta be quick, you gotta be ready. I mean, and I know we talked about this before, but a generalization is for music, you know, I think we're all here because we all are artistic people and we have a passion for film and for TV and for music. And so we love what we do, and I think what I'm getting at is, I think the standard is like 10% is what the music budget should be. However, I think a lot of us, you know, it's all case by case. I'm going back to that.
Can you say that again, just in case the cable wasn't in when you said the percentage, because I want them to hear this.
Yeah, so a typical budget, and you guys can confirm this, but the music is usually 10% of the budget. So overall budget of the film. So, yeah, and you know, there's small budgets, middle, hardly any budget. But, you know, I think people are willing to work with you if they, number one, if they like you, right? If you have that relationship. And I've done, and I'm not making myself look cheap, but I've done things for free. We've all done things for free in life because you're like, you know what? I like that person. And I think that's really important to have a relationship with whoever it is the contact person, whether it's the director, whether it's the screenwriter, whoever it is. But if you like them and there's a positive vibe there, you know, people are willing to work with you. And I just think it's important for you to know that, because I know this is an independent film, you know, situation, and we've all been in situations where we're like, okay, I believe in you and I'm willing to work with you. And so it doesn't need to be, you know, $100,000 budget, because I'm sure that isn't what we're looking at, you know, in this room. But you never know. You never know what people come across with these grants and everything that's happening, and I think that's really amazing. And you don't know what tomorrow brings and what's going to be the next opportunity. But, you know, to basically confirm, I just think it's really important to, you know, to kind of like believe in the relationship and then go from there, because it doesn't need to be this 10%, but that is somewhat of the standard, you know, from the overall budget. So.
You hit a word. Well, you go ahead and say what you were going to say. I was just going to say she hit the word collaboration a little bit several times as she was talking. So, and how important that is, and to wanting to work with you guys and you wanting to work with us. Can you guys talk to that a little bit?
First, I kind of want to just hop on what you said about working for free. That's like, yeah, it's not just about like if you have a good relationship like between us and the director. It's also like I myself frequently look at, like, do I believe in the project? Does the project mean something to me? That, like, I mean, even the Fall of the Ibis King, which is the one that got to the Venice Film Festival, is I did that for free. Because I knew the directors were students, and I really loved the film. I loved seeing more serious and more dark animation. And I was like, yeah, no, I want to work on this. I want to be a part of this. And so, like, I mean, yes, it's important. Please pay us. This is a really expensive world we're living in, and it's getting more expensive every day. But that said, like, we do want to work with you, and even if it is for less than we would normally charge, we still want to work with you.
And everything's negotiable. Like, yeah, maybe there's a way that you get more of a percentage, or maybe you own the publishing, you own the master of the music, and then you can use it in other realms. So there's always ways of negotiating in a contract. So that's why it's just like, if you're open with the relationship and collaborating, I think, you know, you can really get somewhere with music instead of just using stock music.
I kind of piggyback off of something Amy said earlier too about, you know, working for really big projects on the West Coast or East Coast where they need the music 6 days ago. We have a unique opportunity here in Kansas City, but not just in Kansas City, but we as people and artists and creators, to change the game, to change how things function, right? Things have been like that for a long time in Hollywood, et cetera, and I know I'm talking a very big change, but you as an independent filmmaker, as a cinematographer, as a visual artist, a visual storyteller, you have the ability to not only change the game with your your movies and with your story, but you also have an ability to change the way we operate things, the way we talk to people, the way we organize projects, the way we pay our artists and different operators in a project. And so beyond just the idea of paying us composers, but also prioritize yourself in the process of creating a beautiful piece of art. Will and I were talking about this earlier. You are your bank. You are your funding. I mean, don't wait for anybody else to fund you. If you do have that opportunity and it presents itself through a grant or somebody really believes in the project and wants to fund you, that is an amazing opportunity, and of course take it. But what I tell a lot of artists personally when I work one-on-one with them is fund yourself. Save up, put money towards your project, because you're the only one behind your project. You're the one who believes it the most. And then everybody else around you, you're going to convince them, you're going to tell them, hey, you should believe in this too. And they will. But you're your best bet at creating something amazing. And so if you save up and you invest in yourself, music is part of that investment. Composers are part of that investment. Music editors are part of that investment. Mixing and mastering are equally as important in a film, because you can get a whole nice score from somebody that wrote a beautiful piece for you, but if it doesn't fit in the mix of this movie, then it's either too loud or too low, which has happened to me in the past, where I scored an entire 90-minute film and the music was like, where is the music? And the dialogue is super loud. And you're like, well, oh yeah, we were rushed through the process and we had to get it out. Take time. Of course, release your music, release your project and let it out there. When it's done, it's done. But if you can, take the time, invest in yourself, and you, each and every one of you, have an opportunity to make a difference. And if one of you makes a difference, 5 of you will, 10 of you will, 100 of you will. And now, as a collective unit of creators and writers and artists, we have a power as a unit against all of this stuff that's happening on the coasts that is preventing us from creating what we want to do, because, oh, well, we don't want to necessarily, give voice to indie artists or indie cinematographers. So that's a battle that I'm fighting on a daily basis with my artists and the artists that I work in the studio with, and also filmmakers that I have a chance to work with. So I say you are important, value yourself, value your art, and also invest in it, basically.
If I could just hop on that too, you're absolutely right. You can even tell, that things are changing around by the fact that 2 of the biggest movies this year so far are Sinners and K-pop Demon Hunters, which are both, it's all surrounded about the music, and that, a big part of that is yes, well, frequently we get the I need this yesterday kind of thing is, you can think of us from the beginning, you can work with us from the beginning too, that it's it's not just about not rushing us. It's also about that music is such an integral part of the film that we want to be a part of it. If you're hey, I would really love if I'm thinking about this for this scene, we haven't edited it yet, or we haven't shot it yet, but what would you do for this scene? And getting to just talk about it and get ideas flowing, before anything really happens with it.
And you guys are probably already thinking that way anyway, because I know as a director, and many of you in the room that are, when we are doing scenes and we're preparing and we're blocking and what that's going to look like and the camera angles and all the things, there's always a little narrative playing in the back of your head, and you always have a vision that you're looking at, and you know what you want it to look like. And I can't imagine that without a little bit of music in the background. So you're already thinking about it. You're already oh yeah, I feel this big cinematic score coming on, and or maybe it's the K-pop, whatever it is. But you feel that when you're developing a theme and when you're developing a style for your films. And so if you can communicate with that with them when you start pre-production, then guess what? That gives them way more time to build you an amazing set of music for your film. And to your guys' point on the budget stuff, that's many of us, first of all, a budget. Okay, a budget. It's pretty simple, but you can do it in Google Docs, but a budget. Those numbers are important if you want to produce something of quality and get it past the finish line, because how many of us in here have been on a production and all of a sudden that budget starts going boop, 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 and it's way out of control before you know it. And then all of a sudden, we need music right now. Oh God, I have no money. I'm in the hole. What do I do? So we can think about that in the budgeting process up front, and we can build these guys into the budget talk to them, figure out what would it cost to do the scale of what I want to do, or maybe a smaller scale of what I want to do if I can't afford the bigger scale. Because they can give you that idea up front so that you kind of know what you're walking into and what you can expect, and that might even change the dynamic of what you're going to go film. So, guys, I wanted to ask, you know, two final questions of you guys. I know we were going to really get into some of the copyright stuff, and so sometimes people are scared of copyright. So Sam, maybe just really quickly, if you can just touch, I don't know that we'll do the clips, but if you can just kind of touch on some of the copyright issues and some of those things that you've seen.
Yeah, so the copyright thing is, because I kind of teased this in my mini session, talking about how there was an issue from Warner Brothers when they made 300, because it was acknowledged that Tyler Bates allegedly, covering my ass, allegedly plagiarized Elliot Goldenthal's Titus score. And I did bring a clip, like they're like maybe like 30 seconds each.
Yeah, we can do it. Just
If you
go
want
to,
me to do,
can you
like-
go back one slide for us?
Yeah.
And then play that video on the left.
Yeah.
All right, you hear that. You hear what we're doing. Now, Bobby, if you'll click on the one that says watch on YouTube on the right, because this one's age restricted, so we have to actually
If you
click
have
out.
children, bring them outside.
Oh, where is it? Try that one. Oh, it's not working.
Yeah, that's what happened.
It was working last night. Of course it's going to happen.
I told you I'm cursed.
We'll just say they
this.
sound very similar, allegedly.
If you do look it up. Okay.
Oh, here we go. And then we need to skip to what, about 3?
It was about 4:15.
Okay, 4:15. If you'll skip to 4:15.
Yep, that's what.
Did you guys hear that alleged similarity? I'm going to keep saying the word alleged as much as we can to keep the lawyers out of here. All right. We can cut that if you want. Go back to the slides, but
Yeah, so that had to be acknowledged, and it's like all throughout the film too. And like I'm not disparaging Tyler Bates. I'm not saying like, oh well, he did this on purpose, he's lazy, whatever. Like I think like there are so many things that could have happened behind the scenes that made this happen. But the biggest thing that I find when we start to tiptoe into that line is when directors get married to their temp track. So when they're like, okay, well no, this isn't quite what I want, it's not quite like the thing I put down. And I'm like, yes, but it can't be the same. It can't be the exact same, or we can run into copyright issues. And I mean, thankfully there was no lawsuit with this. I initially thought there was a lawsuit, so redacted, there is no lawsuit. But you don't want to even like run into that line or a possibility of having to acknowledge like, yeah, this was plagiarized. You know, that's like, so it's better to kind of work with, it's better like when you put down the temp track, just try to think about like, okay, well this is what I like from this song, this is what it's giving me emotionally, this is the thing that I think is helping the action or is the character, instead of going like, well I just like it and I want as close to it as we can get. You know, that's where you can run into problems.
yes, I know you have more to say. I see it.
Oh no, it's really about the mood, right? The tone that you're setting, more of like, you know, the actual track. So.
Okay, our final two questions for you guys. First of all, what do you guys want out of us as filmmakers? That's the loaded question, but what do you want when you're working with us? Because it is a two-way street to what you said earlier. We can come, we can pay you, and you can produce a song for us, but do you always want to? So what do you want from us as filmmakers?
I want positivity. I want communication, big time. Because I've been in so many situations where I'm in the dark and then all of a sudden the song just pops up on Spotify and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And there has to be communication, especially if you own part of the song. If you own the music, there has to be, you know, I mean, it all depends on the case, right? If you don't own the master, then they're gonna do what they do with the music, but just open communication. We kind of go back to this whole collaborative thing, but it's really important to you know, because the end result is we're all gonna do the best we can. But if you have a positive vibe and there's no negative Nancy's in the room, it's gonna be a great product. But it just, sometimes it's not that way for whatever reason. It could just be the person, you know, there might be just a grumpy person in the relationship. And that could be really hard. And we've all worked with people like that, but that's just how it ends up being, right? But if you're open with communication, and you're kind of keeping people in the loop of what's happening, I think that's like the best advice for all of us.
Oh, I'm next.
Anybody?
She said everything. That was great. That was really good. I mean, I think my this is kind of like a side question almost, or parallel to what you mentioned. What we would like from you guys. Definitely open communication, but reach out. I feel like there are so many talented. There's the three of us here in front of you, but there's so many talented other composers out there, and I'm sure you guys have your own go-tos. But like, reach out. Find us obviously on social media and the internet, but like, we need to create a healthy environment where all forms of art meet. You know, what I noticed a lot in Kansas City is that, you know, there's the filmmakers group, and then there's the musicians group, and then there's the painters group, and then there's the dancers group, and I'm like, but they're all so connected to each other, and they all work so well together. How come there's not a group for everybody? And so that's something we need to create. I know I sound so like that.
See a lot of nods out there for that.
Hey. If that makes sense, you know, we need to have more communication. Art it transpires all boundaries, right? And art comes in so many different forms. They all work together hand in hand. And so if we continue to have open communication, if we seek out one another, right? Because I find myself oftentimes going and finding you guys, because I'm like, what is happening lately? What can we do as composers to provide you guys with something to help embellish your project, to lift your project up? Well, we would love for you guys to come to us and be like, hey, we got this question, I got this film, I got this idea. What would you do on this? You know, even if you already found a composer, or even if you already found a track for it, don't hesitate to reach out, ask questions, because as a community and as a whole, again, I come back to us as a whole group, we can make a difference together, and also we can work together on so many different aspects of cinema and music.
Okay, I would agree with the communication part a lot too on Amy's thing, that it's, because not just for like, not just on the being in the dark thing, like I've been in that place where I will send off like a sample or a demo or a draft to a director, and I'll be like, hey, what do you think? And then just crickets for like 2 weeks or a month or something. I'm like, is everything good? Are we okay? You know?
On set.
Yeah. And like that's why, because I know like also you guys are busy. I know that so much of film is like hurry up and wait, you know, and that because we are the last part of it generally. But the thing to remember is that we also have our own projects that we're working on. Like you said that you're making your own album, and like you're always writing songs. Like I'm working on like a folklore type album kind of thing, or folklore based. I know that's movie genre. It'll make sense when it comes out, trust me. That it's like we have other projects going on that it's like frequently just earlier this year I had 2 projects whose deadlines were the same week, and like one was like a 10-minute film and the other one was like a 3-minute film, and I went, okay, you gotta really buckle down with this, you know. And so it's like, okay, if I'm not getting answers of like, okay, what do you think about this? Or if I'm asking like, okay, you know, we have this sound design element in the film already, is that gonna stay there, or is that just a placeholder? How are you gonna mix that? You know, and if I'm not hearing anything, then both of our time is just slipping away. And but also, yeah, like you said, a collaboration is that we're all very creative people, and something that I have noticed, like with Sinners and K-pop Demon Hunters, is like how the tides seem to be changing for film scores, is that we were in kind of a very minimalist era for a long time, and it seems like we're really getting out of that, and that makes me so excited. And so like if you're working on a film and you're thinking about like, oh, I would really love to do like I don't know, something like I'd really like to do like a funk score. Like, can we do like a funk orchestra or something? You know, if you're like, oh no, that's gonna be too much. Like, no, it's not. We're getting out of that era where there is no such thing as too much. So like, come hit us with that, and we'll be so excited to do that.
Well, and also, sorry to interrupt, but because it's about being original, right? I mean, look at the series with Seth Rogen, and like it's amazing. The music. I actually went to Berkeley with Antonio Sanchez, so I mean, I'm like, go brother, do your thing, because he's literally just, it's all drums. The whole thing is just drums, and you're like, this is amazing, and it's so simple, and that's what makes it so freaking cool. And so continue to be original, and we be original together.
All right, you guys, do we feel a little more comfortable about working with our musicians and our composers now? Yeah. Thank you guys. We covered so many awesome topics tonight. I hope this helped open your eyes a little bit to the world of working in music and made it a lot less scary, and all that lingo and stuff that we've been scared to talk about we can go do now with amazing, talented artists like you guys. And with that, let's give these guys a round of applause. Okay, I have one more slide. If you guys can just hang tight for 1 second. I told you we were going to surprise you later, and I realized we already gave it away on the card, but whatever. We're going to pretend that we didn't see it yet. So the August prompt for your 1-minute microfilm challenge is, drumroll, The Sound of Cinema. Are you surprised? Yeah. So your story is going to start with music, and so guys, we've actually partnered with these composers, and here in the next couple of days, I'm actually going to have a selection of songs on our IFC website that you can download and must use for your 1-minute micro challenge next month. Because I want you to experience what it's like to use local music in your film. So your challenge is to do just that. Choose one of their pieces and create a 1-minute film where music isn't the background, it actually drives your story. Because music moves. And with that, let's move on. I think we're going to take a small little, is this the micro break, Jamie? Is this a micro break, or are we going straight into the next thing? All right, we're going straight in. We got a lot to do, so turning it back over. Thank you guys so much for being here.